back again. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. You're watching Center Court, and we are going to talk to three great schools about the career outcomes of their latest graduating classes. And more importantly, you know, what you can expect in terms of how your MBA journey will inform and change your career, and how these schools help you prepare for that. There's a lot of hand-holding, there's a lot of guidance, there's a lot of advice, a lot of coaching and mentoring and support from alumni and others. And we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of all that with our three panelists right now. So let me introduce everyone. I'm really happy to see you here. Thank you for joining us. What a pleasure it is to see those smiling faces on a Zoom camera. Someday we'll be in person, but not quite yet. Let me introduce everyone. So from UT Austin McCombs School of Business, we have Brittany Tyree, Director of Full-Time MBA Career Education. From Florida Warrington, we have Carly Eskew. Welcome. And from UVA Darden, we have Jeff McNish, the Assistant Dean of the Career Center. Tell me a little bit about your graduating classes. How have they fared? I know that in many cases, the employment reports are still being worked on and all the little details are being worked out. I know, Jeff, you have already put out a preliminary report, which we've covered at Poets and Quants. So because you actually have something in the marketplace, Jeff, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, we had a great year with the class of 2021. It's the efforts that all those students navigated COVID, navigated their COVID internships with great success, and we ended up having over 95% of the class landing an offer within 90 days after graduation. But at Darden here, we keep track of where everybody's going, because we see that every graduate is an opportunity. And in the last several weeks, the 5% that didn't land within that 90-day window, we're making great progress. We've had great outcomes, and these are students who are looking for the right opportunity in the right location. So we're really proud of what this class did, both at the 90-day mark and even as those continue to search. We saw record-breaking salaries. The compensation package here at Darden, both the base salary and signing bonuses kind of were at an all-time high for us. And I think that's a function of the talent, as well as the competitive market that's out there. So we're pleased. Consulting, financial services, tech are big with us. We didn't see a lot of folks go into hospitality or government, but I think that's part of kind of the current marketplace. But we're really excited about what's happening today with our classes of 22 and 23, and look forward to maybe a more normal looking outcome report going forward.
I imagine that despite the really great outcome, there were times during the pandemic, particularly the really severe part of the pandemic, that people started to get a little worried. Was that true?
Yeah, I think back, it seems like forever ago now, March of 2020, where we were all nervous. We, meaning the industry, hadn't seen a recession in a while. Could this be bigger than the dot-com bust? Could this be worse than the financial services crisis? And really what we saw is people and companies pulled together to try to keep things together. Some industries didn't fare so well, but for the most part, everybody gave it a good shot. And that I think helped keep the students who converted their internships interested in those full-time offers, and they're all now working. But the thing that's amazed me is the confidence that the employers and the students had in the whole process, even though it was very uncertain for a while there.
Right. Brittany, what about McCombs? How did that graduating class fare for you?
Yeah, so I would say 2020, 2021 was definitely a dynamic year, but similar to Jeff, we ended up having one of the best years we've had. I started my role as the director of full-time MBA career education and coaching in March of 2021. And I can tell you that when I started, I was immediately impressed with the amount of support our students were receiving from our staff, from our faculty, from alumni, from employers. It's almost as if everyone was really banding together to make sure our students felt that support. So I think because of the community that existed, that definitely influenced our employment outcomes. But in addition, I also think I would be remiss if I didn't mention our location. So being in, the technology hub of Austin, we definitely saw a lot of employers coming to the table, getting really excited about sharing, open opportunities that could be a good fit for our students. So at the end of the day, we ended up having some of the best employment outcomes, and we envision that it's only going to continue to get better from here.
Well, with the announcements in last 2-3 years of companies in Silicon Valley moving into Texas and in and around Austin, I imagine that the future looks very bright for MBAs out of your program.
Absolutely. And
so,
sorry, John, if you don't mind, I might add, we've spent a lot of time really building up our employer relations and corporate ecosystem. And so this is essentially our team that's hitting the ground running, making it a priority to really build and cultivate our employer relationships. And so because of the conversations they're having and because of the events we're putting on the table for our students, I see our students continuing to lean in to tech and lean into different type of functional opportunities that pop up within the tech space.
Yep, no doubt. In Warrington, how did your MBAs do?
Yeah, so similar to Jeff and Brittany, we had a great year. Also a record year, but for a different reason than what Jeff described for Darden. For the first time ever, we exceeded 90% at grad in terms of accepted offers. Wow. So we're really excited about that. So in terms of placement percentage, this is our best year on record. With a class of 2021, we exceeded 97% at 3 months. And so our students were really hustling. 100% of the students received offers by 3 months. So everybody had at least an opportunity that they were considering. And again, I could say some of the similar things that Jeff and Brittany said, but I kind of want to elaborate on something that Brittany mentioned in terms of the support from alum. So I think the class of 2020 really rallied around the class of 2021. It was really fun to see the class of 21 reach out to our, the first COVID class, if you will, get their insights, potentially work with some of their connections at the firms where they're already working. And I guess I would just express gratitude for the class of 20 for staying so engaged. The end of their program didn't look like they expected, but they seemed to hang around, albeit virtually, to really support the class of 21.
What do you think it is that made demand so strong during a pandemic? I know if you go to a restaurant these days, there are labor shortages everywhere, but at that level. But I wouldn't have expected there to be such great demand among young professionals for who have MBA degrees. What do you make of it?
So for me, what I describe to my students is sort of a trend of two parts. So I think everybody's aware that there was some pent up demand, early pandemic where firms were a little hesitant to pull the trigger on headcount that they knew needed to be filled. And so there was obviously some hiring in and around those MBA level roles. But then similar to kind of what everybody is facing in the country right now, within the Great Resignation, if you will, it's a bit of musical chairs, even at a senior level. And as folks leave the workforce to potentially start their own businesses or seek a new opportunity closer to family, there just seem to be more senior level roles than ever available. So I think for us, it's attributed to those two reasons.
Yeah, that makes sense. Brittany, you have anything to add to that? You agree, I'm sure.
Absolutely. One of the things that I heard Carly highlight was, we're entering into this era that some call the era of the resignation, I believe is a terminology that keeps popping up. So many of our professionals are choosing to pivot into a new space, pivot into a new function and or industry. And so because of that, it's opening up opportunities for our MBA grads. And one of the things that McCombs does a phenomenal job at is really helping our MBAs develop their skill set so they can transition smoothly into these open roles. Some of the skills that's top of mind that I think our MBAs really bring to the table is that growth mindset. So our MBAs, they really do a good job leaning into challenge and being adaptable and learning from the experiences they encounter. And because there's been so much change in the job market, this is highly sought after when you're hiring new leaders. We want to have leaders who can come in and navigate the job market effortlessly and be okay. So I'm really pleased with the emphasis our team places on skill development. And I think, because of this, our employers are very pleased.
Jeff, like Brittany in Austin, you will have the beneficiary of some movement in Virginia. We all know that Amazon is opening up its second headquarters in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., not all that far from the Darden campus in Charlottesville. I wonder how that's going to affect employment of your MBAs, not only in the near term, but in the long term when the system of, ecosystem of companies that serve and help Amazon start propping up around that second headquarters facility.
Yeah, it's more than Amazon too. We're seeing Google and Microsoft right around the corner from our Roslyn, Virginia campus. And I think the tech sector has been sort of slow to blossom here. I'd love to see more Darden students roll up their sleeves and head into that industry, because as I think Brittany mentioned, there's multiple functions: human resources, operations, finance, marketing. All of those functions offer great opportunities in the tech sector. So we're really excited to see that growth in our backyard, but also to watch Darden students travel out to Seattle or even to Austin in Brittany's backyard, or other tech spaces in the US. So we're excited about it. We've got a great team in place to help get students ready for those opportunities, either a technical or just a passion for the sector and want to play an important change role across that industry.
Jeff, in terms of the mix in the latest graduating class, what were the breakdowns on consulting, finance, technology, healthcare, and were there any trends in that data?
We did see, we held steady in tech and financial services, and we did see a little decline in consulting. I think in years past, we've been in the upper 30s and we were in the lower 30% of the class going into consulting. But we did see a big jump in healthcare, and we did see a big jump in the private equity venture capital part of the financial services sector. So historically, we're in the mid to upper 30s in consulting, in the lower 20s in financial services, and the upper teens in tech. But we definitely saw growth in healthcare and private equity, venture capital opportunities. I think when I think about the breakdown, especially of this class, I haven't really uncovered significant sort of things to be worried about or to be excited about. I think we're really watching what happens with the class of 2022. It's one of the largest classes that Darden has had in history. We had a January cohort, if you remember. Yep. And so we've got a lot of students. And one of the things, John, that we're seeing with this class of 2023 is they're doing their own thing. They're pursuing careers that aren't falling in the traditional MBA, consulting, banking type bucket. And that's really exciting for us, because while we do run a great on-campus or on-grounds recruiting program, watching students go out and pursue their passions, pursue things that they're really interested in, and helping them achieve those goals is what really makes our job so impactful.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm assuming even the trends toward healthcare and PE and VC jobs is a matter of student preference and not employer demand.
Right.
Yeah. So Carly, what does the mix look like at Warrington?
So we're seeing consulting and tech sort of evenly, I guess, distributed, but CPG is one that we have always had a decent amount of interest from our students within. And then I think that's going to hold pretty steady, if not grow, over the next couple of years. So consulting, tech, CPG, and sort of other, if you will, are our big four, and lots of things kind of moving up and down within our other category. Healthcare is certainly something we'll see grow, but to report out by exception against consulting and tech following Jeff, I would just add that CPG has remained strong throughout the pandemic in terms of just strength as an overall industry. And I think the more really talented students that we put in some of those upper tier CPG firms, the more advocates that we'll have there. And I think we continue to see students get really excited about firms like Procter & Gamble.
Yeah, right. And Brittany, I'm assuming that because of all the technology activity in the Austin area, you're seeing increases in that field, probably more than any other, right?
Yes, year over year, consistently consulting as well as technology and financial services have been our top three industries, but we've seen the most growth in tech. Our numbers aren't quite finalized for the class of 2021, but I can tell you, just based on the list of opportunities our team has shared with students over the course of the last year, we do envision those numbers being much higher than they've been in previous years.
Right. Now, I know that most of the people who are watching are either those in the pipeline, they're applying now, or they're people who are still in the consideration phase and are going to show up in the next cycle. And I know it's hard to predict how the job market's going to be, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. There are always things that are unpredictable, and you can't really state with total certainty how things are going to be in any given hiring year. But I want you to talk in general about the enduring value of the degree itself, why it stood the test of time. And despite whatever naysayers out there are about the degree, its expense, and we know that there are plenty of them from Elon Musk down, even though Elon Musk employs more MBAs in his companies than most CEOs do, I might add. What's your take? I mean, 3-4 years from now, will the demand for MBAs still be strong? Brittany?
Well, as an MBA grad myself, I can tell that I have absolutely no regrets for having pursued my MBA, just given the return of value that has happened as it relates to me being able to transition into my dream career. But in addition, the skills developed throughout the program, as well as the connections made. Specifically for McCombs, our students have vocalized to us how powerful the alumni network has been for them in exploring new careers and identifying what next step could be a good fit for them. But in addition, they vocalize how much they appreciate the sense of community that is created as they're going through their study teams, as they're going through their cohorts and getting to know each other. Like, those are bonds that never leave. They just continue to evolve. So when I think about the MBA and its value, I think it really relates back to the alumni network. It relates back to the connections in the community that is sensed while in the program. But also it's the skill development. It's the experiences you take from that 2-year experience that make it invaluable.
Yeah. Carly, you have a take on that?
Yeah, I actually couldn't agree more with what Brittany just said. And I would add that it's up to us within our respective programs to be able to communicate that to folks who are considering an MBA. Because if we don't do a good job, I think showing the benefit of the deep network connections you make via full-time or even professional MBA program ultimately, then we're selling ourselves short. So I do think it's up to us to communicate that to applicants, and some of the programs that end up on top will take that seriously really quickly. And then I'll also elaborate on the skill building component that Brittany mentioned. I think it's also up to programs like ours to be able to guarantee deep technical expertise within our concentrations.
Yeah.
So recently we've added a business analytics concentration within our full-time UF MBA program, and it's really rigorous, but it's taught by world-class faculty, and I think would be on par with a lot of the analytics specialized master's degrees. So I know that's not exactly the question that you were asking, John, but I think it's up to us as, you know, strong MBA programs to be able to demonstrate the value of those network connections that we all made via getting our MBAs, but then maybe taking that a step further and providing deeper expertise via our concentrations.
Carly, I think you raised a good point, because, you know, it used to be, we always thought of the MBA as a general management degree, and we still do. But the truth is that employers want both. They want the general management leadership overview, but they also want some deep technical knowledge of a given discipline and given field. So it's like they want the cake and the icing too. And that's just the reality of the marketplace. Now, Jeff, when you talk to your employers of Darden MBAs, what do they tell you about the product? What do they like the most about the product? And what do they wish was different about the MBAs that they hire?
I think, in kind of going back to your other question, I think the future of the MBA is very, very bright. And part of the reason I think we're having great outcomes just coming out of a pandemic, or hopefully that's what's happening, is that the pandemic showed that businesses need people who can solve complex business problems. And the business challenges facing employers today are greater than probably ever before, whether it's a shortage of work or moving information or products across the world. And I think that's one of the things that employers tell us that they value about the Darden degree, is that the Darden experience, the total experience, whether it's in the classroom or outside the classroom, the alumni network, the relationships you build, is that the entire experience prepares a Darden grad to go out and meet with full confidence the challenges that any company or client, if they're working in consulting, faces, and to be creative in what they deliver, and use the latest and the best thinking out there in solving those problems. Our employers tell us they just want more. They want more talent to help them solve these problems. I think it's a great time to be thinking about an MBA. I think it's a great time to immerse yourself in a residential MBA program, to build the relationships, build the connections, and then go out and do some phenomenal work with some of the best companies in the world. Yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more. Brittany, what do your employers appreciate most about the McCombs MBAs they hire?
Yeah, what comes top of mind for me are really some of the soft skills that may not always be talked about. So the communication, the interpersonal skills. You know, when we think about all of the shifts that have happened of employers providing their employees the opportunity to work remote, it is so critical to bring upon new hires that can communicate effectively in a virtual format, but also who have those personal skills to build relationships and rapport with customers and fellow staff. In addition, I would also say, because our MBA profile is so diverse, they really appreciate the unique perspective that our MBAs bring to the table. Our MBAs are used to being a part of teams that are diverse in backgrounds, diverse in makeup. And so because of that, they're always thinking outside of the box, trying to understand everyone's perspective. So I think they really appreciate that. And then the last element I'll kind of reiterate that has already been said is really that strategical thinking and data analysis. Like they want to have MBAs who can come on to their teams and be quick to act and be impactful. And so our MBAs over time have really developed those skill sets.
Yeah, and you used a word there that is interesting to me today because I think it's very important, the word diverse.
Yes.
So, every business school today has made diversity, equity, and inclusion a major priority on the incoming side on admissions, and then internally with staff and faculty. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you're seeing employers make it a similar priority for their hires and for their policies on retention and promotion.
Yes, that's a phenomenal question, John. So, every year our employer and corporate ecosystem sets up these strategy calls with employers. And essentially we ask questions around, what are your needs? What are your top desires for this upcoming year? And one of the things that has consistently been brought up is what they're doing within the DE&I space. They have shared with us new initiatives they're launching. They have shared with us some of the new opportunities that they're hoping to promote to our students. And we've brought this back to students. And what we have found is that this has resonated so well because students are always trying to figure out the best fit for them. And so I just really appreciate the conversation we're having with employers in that space. I'll also add on the staff side of things. This is one of our strategic priorities every year to bring in the best and the brightest faculty and staff who are diverse and embrace change, right? Embrace unique perspectives. And so I'm really pleased to see that year in and year out at the university level. And then lastly, I would say on the student level, our admissions has done a phenomenal job really prioritizing bringing in more diversity as it relates to diversity of thought, as it relates to gender, as it relates to affinity groups. It's phenomenal. It just makes for a really great classroom experience for our students.
Absolutely. Carly, are you seeing this emphasis on DEI among the corporates that hire your MBAs as well?
Yes, John, and I'm really excited about a trend that I've picked up on in some of our leading employers and reaching out to just set up conversations and almost brainstorming calls directly with our office and saying, here's what we think our obstacles are in hiring and retaining diverse talent, but do you agree with that? What are your obstacles? So it's kind of like a really intense collaboration and focus among both the private sector and career services offices. And Jeff and Brittany may have seen this too, but it's exciting to partner and share insights that we've seen, obviously within our admissions capacity, but also throughout recruitment to really inform where they're headed and learn from them too. And so it seems to be that there's more of a two-way street on some of these issues. And then I'd also call out, I've been really impressed by Gator MBAs recently and taking internal leadership for some of the affinity groups that may not have existed in the past or may have existed in a lighter touch manner. Our students are being really intentional about how to reach students of all backgrounds within the program, also within alumni groups, and setting up even specific days and events that allow our students and also our broader community to hear from D&I leaders in the market. We're actually planning one of those for mid-November. So I think we've made, like a lot of programs, some strides toward meeting some of those objectives. There's a lot of work left to do, but again, sort of to summarize, I think what I see is partnership directly with our private sector relationships whose objectives are fully aligned with ours, and then also just praise for the students who've taken a strong leadership role as well.
Yeah, that's great to see, because sometimes, schools lag the corporate world, and sometimes they lead the corporate world. I think this is one area where you're both entirely in sync. I know one of my colleagues, only yesterday, Jeff spoke with Martin Davidson at Darden, who's looking over these efforts and leading them. And I'm sure you two are hearing from employers about the need to recruit more diverse talent, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with everything that has been presented. The one benefit, I think, is companies are really telling the true stories of their cultures, around their entire culture. So yes, their strategies with respect to diversity, inclusion, but by thinking about diversity and inclusion, they are telling clear, more realistic, more true stories about what their cultures are, which I think is also helping match students with the right opportunities. So I'm excited for this initiative on multiple fronts, because I think that's one of the hardest things that an MBA is faced with, is how do you really get to the core of a company culture? If you've only had a chance to meet with a few representatives on campus or spend 10 weeks in a virtual setting, that's really hard. But we're getting company representatives, business schools, we're getting really good at describing who we are, what we do, to paint the picture for our candidates.
And most people, when they think about business school, they think about the core curriculum and the electives. But there actually is a career curriculum that most schools offer. Jeff, what does that career curriculum look like at Darden?
So we have a branded curriculum called CDY Finding. It stands for Career Development Why Finding, where we help you find your why. We help you find your passion. We help bring your interests to the surface so that then we can work with you, whether it's through an independent job search or something that we do here on grounds, to really give you that experience. The MBA happens very fast. Recruiting is happening faster and head spinning earlier this year than ever before. And so our curriculum is designed to get you ready, but also to help you figure out what you want to do kind of in the short term. And then after you do your internship, if you want to come back, we give you another chance, if you'd like to do that, to find something post MBA. But our career education is, we put it online. We did it before the pandemic, and thankfully we did that. That helped out a lot. So we had some experience in that. But we're developing new material all the time to really meet the changing career needs. Early recruiting, like I said, being one of them, and then helping students find what they're really interested in. Because I think at the end of the day, the schools that have great on campus or on grounds recruiting processes, as along with a staff, and all of us have great staffs who put in countless hours to help students figure out where they want to go. The great staffs to get people into the opportunities that they're really excited about post MBA is important, and part of what we deliver in a career education.
Brittany, your career curriculum, I'm sure, as is often the case, includes coaching, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I get the pleasure of leading a team of 4 career consultants who, from my perspective, really bring to the table some superpowers and unique industry expertise. And so our students who join the program have an opportunity to meet with any of our career consultants and receive tailored instruction. We also have support via a second year career fellows is what we call them. Essentially, this is a group of like 40 plus second year students who have done really well in their career searches, who want to serve as an extension of our team. And so they offer up their time and career support for our students. We also have industry career consultants, which are essentially a group of alumni and or experts in the industry who want to give back, their time and offer that insight to help our students who are pursuing career transformations, whether it be switching into a new industry, switching into a new function area, and or geographic location. I'll also mention, outside of career coaching, we do have a course that's called BA 181, Strategic Career Planning. All of our first year students are actually required to take it in their first year. And the goal of that class is to really get students thinking about themselves and what it is they're interested in as it relates to their interests, their skills, their values, and then how this could likely be infused in the current job market. Right. So we have a framework that we have our students go through. And because of that class, as well as because of the phenomenal team we have, a lot of our students end up gaining that clarity around their next steps.
Right. Which leads me to, I think, an important point about business education. You go to a business school and the school will think that its job doesn't end when you walk on stage and get your diploma. It ends when you get a job. And that's different from any other college or department in the university. And you're hearing from 3 people who devote their lives to making sure there are successful outcomes for students. And I'm just going to say, there is no other college, there is no other department in any university that does more to make sure that there's a successful outcome than a business school. And so if you're wondering, and you're listening to an Elon Musk or some other people out there who say, oh, don't spend your money on an MBA. Let me tell you, the MBA is a no-brainer investment. Carly, you're agreeing with me, and you have superpowers that you bring to the game too, don't you?
Yeah, and I think Jeff and Brittany can probably relate that, we're sort of the part of the college where the business school students send their brothers and sisters and cousins, right? Because they haven't had that coaching from other degrees and they've experienced it themselves. And so I know for certain that you, Jeff and Brittany, or members of your team at least, have gotten text or calls from students asking us to meet with, significant others or relatives, because we do provide more intense career support for students than any other college. I would agree with you there, John. I would just add that at Florida, we have a really small, curated, full-time MBA program. And so while we do have a pre-MBA career curriculum that sort of batches some of the content together, we have the extreme luxury of starting one-on-one unique coaching as soon as classes start, or in many cases before. Career services is involved, and in many cases I'm directly involved in full-time MBA interviews. And so this allows us to even start some of those coaching conversations immediately. I can think of even earlier today in interviewing a candidate, she kind of, I saw her eyes open in the conversation. And I think it's just because we place such an emphasis on careers, even, from the admissions discussion. We do batch some of the content in onboarding, but by the time they're on campus with us in the swamp, they're really already unlocked that one-on-one coaching directly from their full-time career coach, so that we can be sure to do what Jeff's trying to do at Darden, which is get them to where they want to be, not where we've historically, put our MBAs, if you will. So that's a really fun part of our program. I'm an alum of our full-time UF MBA program. And so I know I'm a little biased here, but I do think one thing that makes, I guess, our approach stand out is just that individual attention that we're able to offer, because we have the luxury of a small class size.
Jeff, what separates a person who's most successful in landing the job or the career that they want versus someone who might have to settle a little bit and take a smaller step out of school, hoping that they take the step that they really want in the second position? What separates those two people in your mind?
Yeah, I think it's confidence. It's confidence in that you've have an undergraduate degree, you've spent some time in the world of work, whether it's business or other, and you take those two things and put a vision together for business school. And in some cases, people come right into the classroom knowing what they want to do, and that's great confidence. In other cases, they have the confidence, but they're going to use the start of the business school experience to really put the final step in place. And so what I've seen is those students, and we're having those conversations right now with our first year, because many of them are now 6 weeks in to, or our first years are 6 weeks into the program, and they're starting to understand which courses in the core they're enjoying, which ones are more challenging, and how those shape maybe what they do. But I really think confidence is the key, and confidence is built by having work experience, coming to us with 3 or more years of experience, so that you can say that you've been there to some extent and you've had an impact. 1 year or no work experience, I don't know if it's really enough to help with that impact. And once you've got some wins, or once you've demonstrated impact, bringing that to the business school process and knowing how you're gonna win, I think really contributes to the experience.
Yeah.
And the outcome that they get.
Yeah. I'm also thinking, you referred to this, that the earlier you know what you want, the more likely you are to get it. So the people who enter MBA programs and are the wanderers, meaning they have no clue, they may have told admissions what their post-MBA goals are, but that was fiction. They get into the program, they have no idea of what they're going to do. I think those people have more of a struggle to get what they actually want at the end of the program. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, recruiting, and it's a sign of the times. Recruiting is happening earlier and earlier and earlier. And I'm an old school believer that you should be able to show up at business school. We give you a whole bunch of experiences, and then over time, we can help you figure it out. And I still think we can do it. There's just some industries that are coming so fast, and they're really putting, there's pressure to make a decision. And our team knows about that and helps students put strategies and manage the whole process. I do also believe the value of the degree does allow for that wander. And what that person has to do is they have to be willing to let the people that know what they want to do go and wave at them as they're going by, knowing that, hey, I'm not ready to do that yet. And when I'm ready to do it, I know I've got a team who will support me. I know I've got classmates that will support me, and I'll hit that job market at the right time for me. And that's certainly something that we inspire here, is that if you're not ready, stay connected with us. We'll help you navigate the landmines. We'll help you be informed about what sectors you may have to ignore if you're not ready to go, or what sectors or what types of jobs you might look at later in the cycle. But the nice part about the MBA is the outcomes are there. Students are getting jobs, and many of them are getting them very quickly, but many of them are getting them closer to graduation, for example. And the reason they're doing that is because they took some time to breathe while they were in business school, but then also had some very specific objectives, whether it's a type of company or a geographic location that they wanted to go to, and they were going to make the most of the MBA by hitting that goal, as opposed to participating in maybe an on-grounds or on-campus process.
Right. Brittany, last question for you. If there was one thing you wish incoming MBA students at McCombs knew about the career journey and the process, but don't know, what would it be?
That's a really great question, John. I think there's a couple of things that come to mind, but I'll pick one. I would say the biggest thing would be that your MBA experience is an opportunity for you to realize your reason of being. So here at McCombs, the principle that we promote to our students is Ikigai, and essentially that stands for reason of being. And so we put our MBAs in positions to really dig deep and learn more about themselves as it relates to their interests, their skill sets, and their background. And so I would want to encourage MBAs or prospective MBAs to really spend the time leading up to their MBA experience to learn more about themselves as they begin thinking about what MBA could be a good fit for them. In addition, I would recommend learning as much as you can about the job market to identify your fit and what respective space could be good, the right next step for you. Right. That also will shed some light in terms of what school to focus more of your attention on.
Great advice. Carly, what's the one thing you wish your Warrington MBAs knew before they hit campus about the job journey?
So my response kind of relates back to a question that you asked earlier about what do employers appreciate about our talent. And I think one of the most important things about our program is that we admit for grit and then cultivate that once you're in the program. And so I'm remembering a conversation with a C-level corporate executive who said, you know what, I keep coming to Florida alongside Ivies because I can trust your students to roll up their sleeves. And that never left me. And so I guess to be succinct, what I would say is it's hard. We know it's hard, but we're looking for students from the very, top of the funnel who've demonstrated their abilities to overcome challenges, because there are going to be a lot of them over the course of the 1 or 2 years, in the case of Florida, that you're enrolled in our full-time program. So I think knowing from very early on that it is hard is helpful, so that you can mentally and physically prepare for living in the swamp, but also going through the full-time MBA program and committing yourself to recruitment as intensely as we expect.
All right. Thank you so much. Hope all of you find your whys. You're admitted with grit and you have a reason for being. I really want to thank each of you for your perspectives and your time. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure our audience will appreciate it as well, if not already, in the future when they view this on demand. So thank you, Carly, Jeff, and Brittany. It's been a pleasure.